You're listening to the Black Eagles podcast.
İbrahim'in pası, Zuma, şimdi Ahmet, ikinci gole gidiyor Beşiktaş, Ahmet,
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 206 of the Black Eagles podcast. And I'm your host, Sinan on an unseasonably warm winter day here in New York City. Much more like fall than winter, you could say. Which, as usual, is fitting for where things are for us. Things are warming up, perhaps. Now, there's a lot to talk about this week. A lot of interesting things to discuss. And so obviously what we have to talk about first is some football, which tends to be less of our focus of late. But this week we've got some interesting stuff to discuss. Now I guess first of all, let's obviously discuss our opposition, which would be Kayserispor, a team with a pretty rich history in Turkish football by now. Moderate success, not really rewarded with any silverware, of course, but it's rare for most teams in Turkey regardless. Interesting history. Now, I guess we could talk about what their form was coming into the match. In their last 5, they had only lost once. And if we go their last 5 Super League matches, we go back to the end of October where they had beaten Fatih Karagümrük, drew against Fenerbahçe on the road, in Istanbul, 2-2. Drew again, Göztepe at home, 1-1. Lost to Rizespor, which nobody wants to do in the Super League these days. But they lost in Rize 1-0. They played 76 İzmir Belediyespor in the Cup and beat them 4-0 before coming back into the Super League and beating tough Antalyaspor opposition 2-0.
Operation is in effect as of right now.
I say tough because Nuri Şahin has led his boys to 6 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses, I believe, is what I recall. So he's gotten good results out of Antalyaspor. So for Kayseri, they're actually in quite good form. The only blip being the the loss against Rize. But so, yeah, I think one would assume that they were feeling pretty good about their chances, perhaps, against a Beşiktaş that had been reeling with Under Karaveli, interim coach, being upgraded, promoted from the under-19 side. I think I bet Beşiktaş were still the odds-on favorites, for bookies. But I think one could have probably thought they'd get some money if they'd bet on Kayseri this week. And so that's probably a good sort of preamble to sort of start talking about what happened in our match. Now, I guess it's worth mentioning in our last 20 matches, Beşiktaş had won 13. 6 of them were draws, and 6 of them went to Kayserispor. So, pretty good history for Beşiktaş there. And yeah, I guess that's probably the preamble that does it, right? And now we talk about the match itself. We'll talk about the lineups. So for Beşiktaş, Under Karaveli, who was I was sort of joking about supporting him as our next coach. I mean, I did say I support sort of any sort of interim manager. He happened to be the guy picked. I obviously wasn't like a Karaveli fan by any stretch, having never even really heard of the dude. But I like the idea of a patient sort of rebuild, carefully, not rushing into getting our 9th choice guy, some older Turkish fellow. If, I was impressed by the names initially. There were guys I'd never heard of. I had to do a little research. You like to see some creative thinking on the part of management. And so for them to have selected someone who none of us knew we could have anticipated, it was good. It was good to see some surprises on the list, right? So then for them to have started settling in on the usual suspects in Turkey, that was disheartening for me. And I just would like to see us wait it out. Our top choice, Fark, actually kind of said he was honored by the offer. Didn't really want to join now, right? Because it wouldn't give him a lot of flexibility. It would probably mean suffering for a few months, right? With a side that's not very aligned, committed. He probably did a little research and saw how they were playing and thought, I don't know if that was just the coach. I think they had problems that ran a bit deeper, which isn't to say that they didn't need to replace the coach, but it also means that it probably wouldn't be such an easy fix. So, like I said, an intelligent manager would sort of be able to diagnose that quickly. So anyway, with that said, Under Caravelli would do some interesting things. So he goes from sort of a haha, let's support this guy, haha, it's hashtag Caravelli season, to like, okay, look at this. Suddenly Serdar Sachi is starting next to Domingos Vida. Ridvan Yilmaz on the left side, opposite Don Anton Rosier. John Bozdogan, Miralem Pjanic, and Atiba Hutchinson. With Rasheed Gazelle and Kyle Laren on the wings, and Mishi Batshuayi up front. Mishi Batshuayi, who supposedly he had his folks compile a highlight reel of his more impressive goals historically, just to say, hey dude, just remember what you're capable of. This might have paid off, it turns out. Now Kayserispor would roll out in their goal Silviu Lung, the Romanian 32-year-old keeper. Majid Hosseini, Iranian 25-year-old central defender, next to Uğur Demirok, 33-year-old Turk. Onur Bulut, 27-year-old German Turk, on the right side of their defense, opposite Lionel Carol, 30-year-old Frenchman. A name many would recognize around the Super League, if you've supported or followed the league for a while. Gustavo Campagnaro, 29-year-old Brazilian, in the back of their midfield, with Olivier Kemen, 25-year-old Frenchman, up front, and Ibrahim Aktay, 30-year-old Turk. By up front, I mean in the midfield. Emre Bashan, I don't know. 29-year-old Turk, who played on the right wing with Mame Babatiam, the 29-year-old Senegalese winger, opposite him, and Ilhan Parlak, 34-year-old Turk, up top. So, a lot of names we might recognize. A lot we might not, perhaps. But anyway, one important missing man out there, of course, would be Bernard Mensah, who has a cruciate ligament injury and is out for the season. So, it's a shame for him. He came out and actually started having, I think, a really good season initially. So, condolences, obviously, and get better, and stay strong, pal. We don't have any ill will towards you, Bernard. As for us, obviously, Aydin Hasic still out with his cruciate ligament injury. He's been out for some time, although he might actually be healthy. I think he's training now with the squad. We may see a return in January. Should we have a manager who's bold enough to play young players? Certainly. And then, of course, we have Alex Teixeira, who has a sort of unknown thigh injury, supposedly out till mid-December, which is about nowish, I suppose. Georges Cavin Nkudu, a ligament injury, is out till early February, supposedly. Mert Gunok, a cruciate ligament injury, out for the season. Joseph De Souza and Wellington, both suspended with red card suspensions. So, or perhaps accumulation. I don't think Joseph had a red card in the last match, did he? Anyway, for them, they had a couple suspensions too. Mario Gavranovic, 32-year-old Swiss. I don't really know what position. I guess he's a striker. He's their striker, right? He usually plays instead of the dude they had up there. And then also Dimitrios Kolovetsios, 30-year-old Greek central defender, was suspended for the match. Ilhan Parlak, right, is the guy who Gavranovic would normally play for. Anyway, So, that's it for the lineups. That was a long intro to this match. Let's dig in. First minute of the match. It would actually be Ilhan Parlak who would almost get in behind Domagoj Vida, slow to react, but Serdar Saci cutting out the attack. And early on, making me happy about seeing him back in the lineup. Obviously, it's important to note that Under Karavelli, being the under-19 coach, playing guys like Serdar, Ridvan, Ersin, etc., right? Like Guven Yalchin, eventually we'll get to that. These are guys he's comfortable playing with. He's coached them before with the under-19, so that's a side note. Anyway, 15th minute, we'd finally have our first attack. Corner kick by Pjanic would find Domagoj Vida, who would sort of blunder it almost into the goal. It would be saved. Kind of easily, though, even accidentally, perhaps, but it is what it is. Lung is a pretty solid keeper regardless. In the 31st minute, Michy Batshuayi showing some intent, perhaps signaling that Under Karavelli's efforts paid off. With an A+ dribbling around the left side, cuts in, takes a shot across the mouth of the goal. Lung with pretty heady save. Good one. And then, completely against the run of play up to this point, with us now having had the 3 highlight plays to their just one very early on in the first minute of the game. 37th minute, of course. Because why not, right? Emre Bashan with a perfect cross into the direction of Mame Thiam, who heads it with relative ease into the back of the net. 0-1, and we are down. Again, very much against the run of play. You hate to see it, but it is what it is. I should also note, I suppose. Oh, sorry, it was Onur Bulut whose assist it was, by the way. But Onur Bulut had also gotten a yellow card in the 24th minute, and Serdar Saci got one on the 35th. In the 42nd minute, we'd see our first substitution. It would be Onur Bulut injured. Ramazan Chivelek would come in. Lots of boos already for time wasting. Still the first half, folks. Don't worry. And sure enough, as if in response, Kyle Larin would score. Serdar Saci sending in a nice ball from deep, just past the midway line. Finding Kyle Larin's head, he heads it sort of down perfectly into the bottom corner of the goal, past Lung. Worth noting, Michy Batshuayi kind of almost made an attempt on the ball, so I think Lung hesitated to dive to that corner, thinking Batshuayi might get a piece of it and send it the other way. So, it was a little more complicated than it just being kind of a goal that Lung let go easily. And in the end, it was a pretty solid goal, 1-1. Kyle Larin scores again, his 5th of this season. And that's it at the half. 1-1 it is. Worth noting, Kyle Larin trotted out Kevin Nkudu's jersey, his number 7. So, a show of a bit of camaraderie. You like to see it. That's sort of been lacking, certainly. Anyway, let's keep going. 46th minute, Ibrahim Aktay gets himself a yellow card. In the 51st minute, I don't remember who brought it up. It could have been Ilhan Parlak, but Ersin comes out to excuse me. As you can hear, I'm still a little sick, but Ersin comes out to dive at the feet of an incoming striker. He gets the striker and not the ball. Yikes, could this be a penalty? No. Turns out the guy was offside. We're fine. Nothing to worry about, except, and again, against the run of play on a counter, it would be Ibrahim Aktay who assists. Kyle Larin lets go of one far too easily, which results in this counter, by the way. And of course, it would find Mame Thiam, and again, it would find his head. This time, it was Valentin Rosier who keeps him onside a little, perhaps, but whatever, it is what it is. 1-2, we are once again behind, and again, it's against the run of play, but it's just, this is how things have been for us, and I think in a lot of ways, people probably weren't even shocked, although I'm sure many of us were disappointed. Anyway, subs made. Ozan enters the game in the 73rd for Atiba. kind of a heady, good sub, if you think about it. Guven Yalcin enters the game for Kyle Larin. You know, looking for energy. Kyle Larin has definitely been lacking with his touch, as is typically the case. And so 2 interesting subs. Nothing we would have seen from Sergen, whose subs were always questionable. No Mehmet Topal. And things are looking okay. 75th minute, Ozan gets himself a yellow card, but at least he's not ghosting, right? He's running around, he's active. A free kick. Pjanic sends one from deep in off the post. Begging the question if someone shouldn't have been in the box putting his head on the end of that, but somehow Guven is sort of stuck watching, and it hits his foot and bounces out of bounds to add sort of insult to injury there, but whatever. Still something. And then, just sort of almost out of nowhere, sort of a lot of dead ball, lots of sort of time wasting and physical play from Kayseri, and then boom, a really nice look from Guven Yalcin, finding Michy Batshuayi perfectly. Batshuayi was sort of straying offside, steps back on, the ball is timed perfectly and placed perfectly. Batshuayi has the really perfect first touch into space, but also bringing him right into the box and giving him a good position to get a shot on. The shot's not ideal, but it's low with power underneath the keeper, goes in. Boom, we're level again, 2-2, and so here we go. Fighting back from behind twice. You love to see that spirit. You love to see Michy Batshuayi engaged and, scoring even. And you love to see Guven Yalcin with another good cameo. We've seen it earlier in the season, and then he kind of trailed off again, which you hate to see because that's his issue, is consistency. But, maybe he can carry this one on. Let's hope for the best. He's got his old coach at the helm vis-a-vis Caravelli's season. But 85th minute, Lionel Carol gets himself a yellow card, maybe complaining about the goal or something, I don't recall it. 88th minute, Mehmet Tiam is on the run. Nice moves, actually, finding himself space. Really suspect defense, perhaps. But Ersin makes the save, standing tall at the post. Brings it, sort of punches it out into the area, which actually results, into his teammate's path, rather, resulting in a quick counter. So clever. Which ultimately results in Guven Yalcin again getting the ball, sending Michy Batshuayi on up the right side. And this time it's all Michy Batshuayi. Just lovely kind of dribbling, sort of one of those sort of left-right jukes, and then sends it in perfectly, kind of across the goal mouth with power, low, perfect goal. And Beşiktaş is winning 3-2. Michy Batshuayi races to the sideline and embraces Under Caravelli like he loves this man. I'll tell you one person who's feeling the effects of Caravelli's season, Michy Batshuayi and Guven Yalcin, both embracing the coach. Substitutes. Carlos Mane comes in the 3rd minute of extra time for Ibrahim Aktay. Mustafa Pekdemek for Gustavo Campañero. So they're going on the attack. 3rd minute of extra time. Mehmet Topal enters the game for Can Bozdoğan. Yikes. Whatever. It is what it is. We're playing defensive. In this context, it makes sense. And then boom. Guess who scores? Guven Yalcin, racing up off the counter, finds Michy Batshuayi, who really has the perfect touch, the perfect pass into the path of Guven Yalcin, who then has the perfect touch. A little kind of beautiful technical 1-2 touch on himself, surrounding the defender, sending the ball in past the keeper with class. And it's 4-2, folks. We're feeling good. We are feeling good. The celebrations are just in high, just ramped up. Everyone's just feeling fantastic. Beşiktaş wins the 97th minute and 9 seconds, and the whistle's blown. Game over. Beşiktaş wins. How about that? I certainly had forgotten that feeling. And for good reason. I don't know if folks really want to hear this, but the last time Beşiktaş had won a match was October 25th against Galatasaray. We found our winning form just in time for Fenerbahce, who we play this coming Sunday, December 19th at 11 a.m. And so this raises the question, who would our coach be, right? The logical sort of assumption in the press was that we would then sort of follow up this win with the announcement of a hiring. Daniel Fark, as I mentioned, said no, not for the time being. A number of rejections around. Supposedly, VS Boas was approached and rejected. So, I mean, some names you didn't quite expect, but again, okay, we can deal with that. I think, we can deal with some outside of the box thinking. I don't mind seeing it. But so, where does that leave us? Before we get into all that, let's finish up talk of this match. And let's talk about some statistics. Because, why not? We finally got a W. Now, first of all, we had 73% of the ball, 21 shots to their 6, 19 chances created to their 8, 2 big chances apiece, which is interesting to me. We completed 607 passes to their 169 at an 89% rate of success to their 68%. So these numbers are coming back to where they should be for us. We conceded 14 fouls to their 18, 7 corners to their 2, 1 offsides to their 2. So, we're showing numbers that suggest we're aggressive. We were aggressive, rather. So again, 21 shots to their 6, 7 off target to their 2, 8 on target to their 3, 6 shots blocked to their 1. 16 of our shots were inside the box to their 3. I mean, really just great numbers statistically. Although we had to come back from behind twice to win this, which would suggest they were a better side perhaps. And although we won 4-2, which would suggest we were dominant, the reality is somewhere in the middle, right? Like, we could have lost this match. We would have lost this match with lower morale, as things had been for some time. Somehow we came back, and then when you look at the numbers, you say, makes sense. We probably should have dominated this match from the outset. And of course, their 2 goals were, generally speaking, against the run of play. With that said, they were earned, right? Like, they were sort of, that's how they were trying to play. So, it is what it is. Now, let's talk about individual stats. Michy Batshuayi led the way, and as you'd expect, 2 goals and an assist. Guven Yalcin was next with 1 goal and 2 assists. Mame Baba Tiam, 2 goals, right, was next. Then Rasheed Gazelle rated highly. Kyle Larin rated highly. He had a goal, so that's that. Then Miralem Pjanic, Ibrahim Aktay, Serdar Saci, Ridvan Yilmaz, Domagoj Vida, Atiba Hutchinson, Onur Bulut, despite leaving in the first half, but he did have an assist. Valentin Alozier, then we go into sort of above average. John Bozdoğan, Emre Bashan, Olivier Kemen, and that's it. So John Bozdoğan is the only, he did pretty well, did pretty good, but nothing fantastic statistically. But beyond that, I mean, a lot of guys had good games statistically. Now, obviously, the man of the match would have to be Michy Batshuayi or Guven Yalcin. In the name of just not wanting to pick, because I feel like they both really deserve it, I'm going to split this award between the 2. Because they really made each other's, they contributed to each other's goals, they finished each other's assists, they helped each other have phenomenal games. And they proved a really solid pairing. And it begged the question, is Kyle Larin the problem? We play him because he scores goals, right? And that's what kind of forces him to stay in the lineup. But those goals could be sort of a mirage, hiding generally poor play, where he loses the ball a lot. He's technically, not good enough, right? That's not a debatable point. Could he be the problem? I don't know. But certainly, Michy Batshuayi and Guven Yalcin paired up to have a fantastic outing in this last match. And, I don't know, man. Let's roll with it. Why not, right? I'm not going to talk about their stats because I think what they did well spoke for itself. I'm going to go into Rasheed Gazelle's stats because I'm curious why he was rated so highly. I thought this was one of his weaker games for much of it. I would have even thought. He seemed to be sort of generally lacking with his final touch. That said, 90 minutes, 39 accurate passes at a 75% rate, which surprises in and of itself. He created 3 chances. 39 accurate passes out of 52. 9 crosses, 4 of them accurate. 4 long balls, 2 of them accurate. 3 key passes. 83 touches, so just omnipresent. Yeah, I don't know. That's not bad. He won 8 out of 12 duels. So, his game, there was a lot going on that we maybe didn't see. Superficially, maybe he didn't really pass the eye test, but he was playing defense. He was getting involved in duels. He was engaging. He was making tackles. He was 3 for 3 on dribbles attempted and succeeded. Not bad at all. Okay. I'll give him credit. He even had 4 recoveries, which means he came back and helped out. Sometimes guys have good matches and you don't really observe it. And oftentimes those are like defensive players. And this is a case of a guy who put it all out there apparently and played a lot of defense for a guy whose job that isn't. And so, the stats maybe tell a story that I missed. So good for the stats, I guess. Now I also want to look at Kyle Laren's stats because I thought he really had a poor game. Of course, he had a goal, and that's what gives him some sort of inflation, if you will. Key word there of late. 5 total shots, 37 accurate passes, and 88% rate. But a lot of these are ticky-tack little passes up front that don't result in everything, and maybe oftentimes aren't very creative and sort of slow us down in the attack. He had 2 shots on target, 2 shots off. Right? Obviously, one of them was a header that went in the back of the net. One of the shots was blocked. So there's his 5 shots. 37 out of 42 with his passes, but no crosses attempted, no long balls attempted. So yeah, that's what I thought. He inflated those numbers with sort of ticky-tack passes. 7 out of 12 duels won. Okay. I don't know. 57 touches. It's not like extraordinary. Remember, he was a winger. Remember, Rasheed Gazelle was up in the 80s. So, yeah, I think, the goal and his little passes sort of inflated his stats. See, there you go. You can actually kind of infer these kinds of things from the stats. There you go. So there it is. There's 2 guys who had high statistical numbers that I didn't expect to. One of them deserving them, and another one not. So there you go. That's what happens when you analyze these stats and dig in. You find some gems, and you find some stinkers. But yeah, I'm still going to go with Mishi, the Batsman, and Guven Yalchin with my split man of the match because I think they complement each other perfectly. And I don't want to split the camps. I don't want anyone to have to be like, I want Mishi, I want Guven to have it. I know that Batshuayi's got his haters for not playing particularly well all year. And I know Guven Yalchin has his haters for his inconsistent play and for completely falling off the map for a while, but let's all choose to be positive here. Well done for both of them. And man of the match to you too. Now, that's it. Let's talk about standing. And the reason I want to talk about standing is because some fun things happened. First, Galatasaray lost to Sivas, 1-0 in Sivas, which is nothing crazy. Sivas is good at home. But Gazelle continuing to lose. Fatih Terim hailed for his Europa League run, stinking it at home. For me, Europe can be sort of a mirage. It can hide rot, if you will. And I'd much rather see consistent success domestically than the occasional decent campaign in Europe and nothing domestically. Galatasaray might be forgiving a little too much vis-a-vis Fatih Terim and his performance domestically, but it is what it is. Galatasaray lost, so that's nice. We won, they lost. We're going to pass them. I won't go into just the extent of that yet. Additionally, Fenerbahce played, so today was just Galatasaray and Fener. Fener, you want to know what they did? They lost also at home to Gaziantep, on the road rather, in Gaziantep, which is never an easy place to play in. They lost 3-2, twice coming back from behind, but in the end, losing it rather than turning it around the way we did. And so now they're just going to be 3 points ahead of us. So let's talk about these standings a little bit. Trabzon lost also for the first time this season, losing to Antalya, Nuri Şahin's Antalya, who I was speaking of earlier, 2-1, again on the road. So all of our rivals played on the road, and all of them lost. We played at home, we won. Sometimes that's all it takes. So let's talk about these standings. First place, obviously, Trabzonspor, 39 points. Second place, Konyaspor, 30 points. It's 9 points back now. That's not insurmountable anymore, is it? Hatayspor in third place with 29 points. They also managed to win 1-2 against Altay on the road. Fourth place, Istanbul Başakşehir. What? They're back? 28 points. Fifth place, tied with sixth place on 27 points, are Fenerbahçe and then Alanyaspor. And then Beşiktaş in seventh place. We moved up from ninth with 24 points. Right behind us, Adana Demirspor with 23 points and Galatasaray with 23 points. And then there's Sivas and Fatih Karagümrük with 22 points, and then Antalya in 12th place with 21. And Gaziantep has 21 also and 13. I mentioned those guys because they could theoretically have 24 points next week and catch us should we lose. We're playing Fenerbahçe on the road in Saraçoğlu. So, anyway, stay tuned. Sunday, December 19th, 11 a.m. Be there or be square. Huge match upcoming. I can't wait for it. And I guess what we ought to do now is talk about it a little bit. Now, Fenerbahçe is kind of a weird side, aren't they? They've not enjoyed the success that Galatasaray has continentally, right? They knocked out of the Europa League. They are going to play in the Conference League, so it could be interesting. They could have a nice run there in the competition's debut run itself. They've had some disappointing performances, though, in Europe, losing to, Olympiacos, for example. And we could start there. That was 5 matches ago. They lost to Olympiacos. After their big win against Galatasaray in the Derby, which made them kind of prohibitively, the contenders with Trabzonspor for the title, came out and threw up a stinker against Olympiacos in Greece, to be fair. Came home in Izmir, lost to Göztepe 1-1. Came home to Turkey, rather, but yeah, they were on the road in Izmir. Then they came home to Istanbul. They came home proper and beat Rize 4-0. They would have been very pleased with that result, although, again, Rize is the side you kind of have to beat these days. But then they followed it up with another stinker, losing to Eintracht Frankfurt 1-1 at home in their chance to maybe make it out of the groups, make it into the knockout round of the Europa League. And then finally, this week, they lost to Gaziantep 3-2. So it begs the question, without much success in Europe, and now 5th place in Turkey, 12 points behind first place Trabzonspor. Is that guy on the hot seat? Sergen Yalçın lost his whole gig. So that begs the question, I'm not sure why Pereira and Fatih Terim are not on the hot seat, but perhaps they should be. And so for what it's worth, Beşiktaş now with 24 points is 6 points behind second place Konyaspor. A victory against Fenerbahçe would put us level with Fenerbahçe at 27 points, probably behind on goal differential, but with the head-to-head going our way, that's okay. Interesting. Now that's a big if, and I'm going to knock on wood because I do not want to jinx that result. Now, who's going to be in charge of Beşiktaş? For the longest time, last week we said it couldn't be Şenol Güneş, right? He had back surgery. Well, somehow he's a prime candidate again. It's come down to him, Okan Buruk. Some late entries vis-a-vis, I think his name was Sabri Lamouchi. Is that right? Sabri Lamouchi, whose last job was Nottingham Forest, or last notable job, I guess I could say, rather. He's coached or managed the Ivory Coast, El Jaish, a Qatari club. Then he coached Reims in France, Stade Rennais, for just a season before going to Nottingham Forest. That's a quick, getting sort of from one feat to the next. He's obviously successful in each job because he's getting kind of upgrades. Ends up with Nottingham Forest, and then from there, I'm not sure exactly how that goes. Supposedly, he guided Forest to their highest league position since 2010. Got them to the playoffs for promotion, but missed out, finishing 7th on the final day of the season. He was like I said, the only manager just to make it through a full season since 2010, which is pretty wild. First to complete a full season in 9 seasons at that point. So moderate success, but he took a step down from there. In 2020-21, he lost his job, terminated and replaced by Chris Hughton. Then he would go manage Al Duhail again in Qatar, where he is currently. Oh no, sorry, he actually stepped down as man not long ago. So that's supposedly an option. Not exactly just amazing stuff there, right? It's not like inspiring massive hope, but it's a dude. It's definitely a guy. And then the other one that's a huge candidate supposedly is Bruno Pinero, who is the manager of Estoril. Not exactly a household name either. He does come with a little bit more accolades, perhaps. A bit more of a track record for you to be excited about. Estoril is now currently in 5th place in Portugal after he won them promotion. So, he's had some success there, and that's, something to hang your hat on, I guess. He's also only 45, so sort of a next-gen manager, if you will. But so, yeah, I don't know, Interesting names. Again, I like that I don't know who he is. It would take a little research to really get to know the dude. And that's not bad. I mean, someone's doing their research. Better than trotting out the same old names who've already failed before. Now, if it's Şenol Güneş, I promised I'd boycott and take a nice long break from the podcast. At this point, I'm going to have to follow through on that just to be a man of my word. So, do the right thing, Beşiktaş! I'm telling you, man. You want to lose your status as a big club that needs a podcast for English speakers to cater to the huge demand. You better shape up. Don't go backwards. Move forwards. Anyway, I'm going to leave you all on that note, man. I hope it doesn't anger too many of you. I know there's a lot of Şenol Güneş fans out there. We can't overlook those sort of 2 years of just torture at the end. But we were begging the man to step down, and he wouldn't. He wouldn't salvage his reputation and do the right thing. He can't move backwards. We finally got rid of a coach relatively quickly, the right way. Let's go from one positive step to the next. And now let's go ahead and do our research, take our time. It's Karaveli season, folks. And I hope Under Karaveli manages us against Fenerbahce. I hope he plays some of these kids, and I hope we win. And all of you folks out there clamoring to rush in some old dude who's already failed have to eat your words. On that note, follow us on Twitter. Blah, blah, blah. Let's go, Beşiktaş! Peace out. Sunday, folks. 11 a.m. Derby time.
Çok harikasın, çok güzelsin, harika.
Beşiktaş International hopes you enjoyed this program.